Hello. I think everybody would agree it's important to understand the engagement level of your workforce. An engaged workforce is more likely to perform better than one that's not engaged, and they're also more likely to stay with your company. But sometimes it's hard to get a really good feel for exactly how engaged somebody is. What I want to do is show you a Tableau dashboard that will help you distill the results of an employee survey into some data that you can monitor and then action in the future as needed. So we're going to look at the results of the survey by category. We're going to see what this most recent survey showed and what some trends over time were. And ideally, we'll be able to find a few spots that our management team can focus on in order to have all of our employees feel more engaged in the success of the business. Okay, here's our Tableau dashboard. So let me get you oriented on what we're looking at here. First off, in this upper left, we're just showing some high-level metrics. So in this case, we had 57 people respond to the survey. They were responding to 19 different questions or statements we asked them or displayed for them. We got a average current score of 3.2, and what that equates to is in this listing of statements that we had people respond to, they could give us 5 different responses, ranging from strongly agree, which would have scored a 5, down to strongly disagree, which would score a 1, and then they can do some of these in the middle too. So an average score of 3.2 would be something in between neutral and agree on average for these 19 different questions that 57 people responded to. And then as compared to the previous survey we did, which in this case was 6 months ago, we scored on average 15% higher. Okay, so as we're working across the top here, we're going to look at the results by category. So in each of these different visuals, we can see a different color with the percentage. And what that's showing is the number of respondents, or the percent, that in this case responded as they strongly disagree to one of the questions in the day-to-day job category. So we're going to work our way up to strongly agree, and then we're going to get the total. So in this case, the total score was about a 3.2. Next up, as we're moving across to the right, we're going to see what the different scores were for different surveys we conducted. So we just saw that we scored a 3.2 this time in this category. In July, which was the last survey we did, we scored a 2.8. And then in last January, we scored another 3.4. And then finally, this next one is going to show what the percent change was from the previous survey. So this 12% is just indicating that between the survey conducted in July and the one in January, we scored 12% higher this January. So that's good, we improved. Okay, now along the bottom, we're going to be looking at individual questions that were asked. So you can see in this day-to-day job category, we asked 4 different questions and had everybody respond to those. And then similar to what we saw on the top, we're going to see what the percent breakdown was into each of the categories depending on the question. Next up, again, similar to the top, we're going to see what the score was for those different survey periods when we conducted the survey. And then we're going to see a percent change from the previous survey. So a few takeaways that might be interesting here as we're looking through this and trying to find some insights that we can action in the future. I guess one thing that we're looking at by category is there's not too much difference currently between the different categories. Well, they bounce around a little bit in the specific details. They were all averaging about a 3.2. So there's no glaring single part of our business that we should immediately go focus on. And then another thing that stands out with this sample data is that everything did increase from the previous survey. So that's a good sign. We didn't see anything get worse. When we go down to the specific questions, I think we can pinpoint a few takeaways based on the categories that scored lower. So just scanning through here, we can see a few of these that had lower scores than kind of the fleet average of 3.2. So some of these were scoring a straight 3.0. In this case, let's focus on this score of 2.9, which was actually the lowest average score of everybody. And let's see how we could use this information. So this question is, or the statement was, the leadership inspires me to work beyond what is required in my job. So this kind of comes to how our managers or leadership is inspiring the workforce to be engaged. So we got a relatively low score, in this case a 2.9. One thing to note there is most of the negative scores were in the disagree category versus the strongly disagree. So I guess one good thing is we don't have the majority of the people who are a little bit negative. They're not very negative. Usually they're a little bit negative. So that would probably mean that it would take a little less effort to move them from a disagree at a minimum up to neutral, or hopefully with some of the actions we'll take, we'll be able to move them all up to agree. And then we also do have some people that strongly agree. So we are influencing some people correctly. So one thing that might be good is if we know who some of these might be, is we can get feedback from them. Actually, I guess we can probably get feedback from everybody. And hopefully people trust us enough to take honest feedback. And we would understand more about the people that we are inspiring and the people that we're not. And we'd be able to take appropriate actions. And then I think some of the power of this comes from if we are disciplined at conducting the survey every 6 months, is then in July, when we do this next one, we'll be able to see what our trend was. So we know we scored a 2.9 on this one. That's actually up a little bit from our most recent survey. And then hopefully when we do the next one, we're at least at 3, maybe we're at 3.5 or even getting closer to 4. And what that would show is that some of the actions we've taken have really lifted the score up. And more important than the score is that our employees are feeling more inspired, meaning they're probably going to do more on their side because they're inspired to work harder. So those are just a few quick takeaways that you would be able to get from looking at this dashboard. And I think what's good about this dashboard is it really distills the information and gets you to that point of impact. If you were looking at all of these 57 different responses and 19 different questions on a big spreadsheet, it would be very difficult to be able to pinpoint a few things that you can go action. But that's what the power of this dashboard would be. Okay, so that was a quick review of that dashboard. I think it gave some good information. We were able to see just the basic statistics of the survey. So how many questions we asked, how many people responded, what the total score was. We then looked at it by category to see if any categories were especially high or low, and then how they trended over time. And then finally, we were able to pick up each individual question and see if we scored good or bad. And then we would dive into some of the ones that we scored especially low on to try to understand why our people are feeling that way, and then put constructive actions in place in order to score higher in the future and have a more engaged workforce, which would lead to better performance and then also probably less turnover in our company, which is all good stuff. So I hope that was an interesting look at how you can use this dashboard. If you have any questions on this or would like to see some of your survey information plugged into a dashboard like this, or set up a survey to use in the future that you could then work with the dashboard, please contact me. My email is jeremy@centralcoast-analytics.com. Again, that email was jeremy@centralcoast-analytics.com. Thanks for your time. Have a great day.